book lovers, it is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about my June TBR. As I'm filming this video, it is actually currently just before the last week of May. And the reason why I'm filming this TBR video so early is because of how busy I will be in the last week of May to prepare for anything June related. And anyone who feels like that I'm sort of lacking in content at the moment, I apologize. I'm just really currently busy with work and other commitments. However, I do want to do my best to get back to a regular upload schedule. It's just at this time, it's just a season, but I do have many video ideas planned, so do stay tuned if you would like to. I'm very much excited to share those with you when I get the chance. However, at the moment I have been struggling to edit, so that's probably the reason why this video will not be going up around this time that I'm talking. Now, in terms of my reading this year so far, I haven't actually found many absolute favorites. From June onward, I do want to focus on finding absolute favorites. I do want to acknowledge that I have been reading very popular contemporary-esque fiction, particularly in the romance category. That has been a very interesting experience. I really have loved opening my heart to that genre slash category. However, it has not felt the same without my fantasy romance, whether it be lighter, whether it be darker, all that stuff etc. I do miss that, and so I decided that I'm going to add a bunch of fantasy romance picks onto my TBR, as well as some manga, because I'm still going to be reading manga regardless. I mean, have you seen my manga TBR? So my TBR for this month is going to be a mixture between some good fantasy romance and some manga that I do want to urgently get to. So I guess without further ado, I'm going to share my June TBR with you guys, and let's hope that I get through some of it, but not a big deal if I don't get through all of it. I'm gonna start off with a manga crossover here, and the manga crossover that I'm referring to is a crossover between Marvel and manga, which is pretty fascinating. When I heard that Deadpool Samurai was going to be a series with Viz, the first thing I thought was, what? Marvel being put into a manga series. What a wild concept. However, in this situation, I think that it works very well because Deadpool has that kind of action style that would work in manga panels, so that is kind of why I am curious to read this series. Also, this series is not a huge commitment. It's a 3-volume series, and I'm curious to see how it would go. Also, when it comes to Deadpool comics, as much as I loved reading the Deadpool comics, I never usually read the Deadpool comics for their plot, which is funny because a lot of comics I did read for their plot as well as the characters, but with Deadpool, I always read the Deadpool comics for his character because he's absolutely hilarious. So I don't mind the series being small. However, I wouldn't be mad with more. I just cannot wait to start it and let you guys know how I go with it, considering that I've experienced both the manga art style and the way that it lays out, and also the superhero comic book art style as well. The next manga that I finally want to put on a monthly TBR is Chainsaw Man. So I'm gonna start off with Chainsaw Man Volume 1. I have been in a bigger manga kick as of recently. I don't even know if I've posted my wrap-up by the time that this video goes up, but if you've been looking at my GOODREADS, last month I read somewhere between 18 to 19 volumes of manga, and I figured that I am probably in the right space to start Chainsaw Man. I think I have really high expectations for Chainsaw Man, considering that everybody is raving about it. The anime is coming out soon, and it's one of the biggest selling manga series out there currently, to the point that bookstores are finding it really difficult to stock it. Those reasons have given me high expectations regarding the series, so I've been putting it off for a while because I'm intimidated. I think to myself, maybe I'm not gonna love it as much as everybody else has. At least with Spy Family, I jumped on starting from either the first or second volume in English. I literally jumped onto that fandom before anybody else hyped it up. Chainsaw Man's a different situation. I feel like I might just be joining the fandom too late, so I'm really hoping this series is really good. And I heard that this series is only an 11-volume series as well, so it's not too much of a commitment. I mean, the commitment's not necessarily the worry, it's definitely the hype here. So cannot wait to get into it and let you guys know how I go with it and whether or not it is worth the hype based on all the hype surrounding it now. Speaking of hyped up animes and mangas, I've got to talk about Beastars because this, as you guys know, is one of my favorite series of all time in terms of manga, and I have volumes 17, 18, and 19, and you bet I'm planning to read these this month. I mean, no pressure if I don't get to all of them, them. However, I just know that with the intensity of the series currently, like where we are at with the series, I'm gonna want to devour these at once. I love the art style of the series, and if you guys haven't experienced the series to some capacity, I would recommend the manga, but I would highly recommend you check out the anime. It is available on Netflix. I enjoyed it so much, and I reckon that it's a good starting point for anybody who is wanting to get into Beastars, because that is exactly how I got into Beastars, and now I'm absolutely obsessed. And this series is going to end sometime soon. These 3 volumes are kind of leading up to that conclusion, so I'm very much looking forward to reading these. I heard that the ending's rushed. I just really hope that I enjoy it based on my expectations of it currently. The last manga that I want to put on this TBR, sorry I've been spamming you guys with manga to start off with, but yes, I will be getting into my fantasy romance stuff after this. The next manga volume, or 2 volumes rather, because this is a bind up of 2 volumes, that I do want to read is the second bind up of Alice in Borderland. This series, oh my goodness, it took me by storm. A lot of you guys might recognize the name Alice in Borderland from the Netflix show. It's actually very surprising that the Netflix show got adapted before this was translated into English. I kind of have a theory. The reason why is a similar reason to why Beastars was published late as well, after being published in Japan for a very long time and then all of a sudden only getting translated once it came to English-speaking countries' Netflix. In terms of Alice in Borderland, I believe it's a similar situation where the demand is there, therefore they're deciding to finally publish these volumes in English. They made the right decision because the series is absolutely incredible. I can't speak about the Netflix live adaptation. I personally will not be putting myself through a live adaptation of Alice in Borderland. If they adapt this to anime, I will watch it. It is so wild. I've rarely watched horror or survival anime. I've only really watched Death Note, and I really love Death Note. And when it comes to Death Note, I loved the anime so much because of its intensity and the way that it was animated, the way that the music was in the background, all that stuff, etc. For some reason, I have expectations for an Alice in Borderland anime to be like that, because when I read it, oh my goodness, am I enthralled. This is just me pretty much singing my praises for Alice in Borderland. Volumes 1 and 2 end off on a wild cliffhanger, and I believe that this series is an 11 to 12 volume series. Then again, I'm not too sure if that is in terms of bind up or if that's just in terms of the series in general. I cannot wait to read this and let you guys know how I go with it. Now we get to the fantasy romance. I'm gonna start off with a fantasy romance that was a 5-star prediction for this year. Why haven't I picked up my 5-star prediction TBR? I really don't know. That is probably why I'm missing out on finding new favorites. The 5-star prediction I'm going to be bringing up in this TBR is A Fate of Wrath and Flame by K.A. Tucker. I have heard great things about this book everywhere. I have not heard one negative review so far about A Fate of Wrath and Flame. It's very funny because a lot of the time, I think it's because of independently published fiction and dark romance slash fantasy, a lot of the time people will compare all of that to From Blood and Ash, and I've been seeing a few reviews saying this is what From Blood and Ash should have been but wasn't, which is very fascinating because I'm actually one of those people who actually love From Blood and Ash. Hearing those reviews, seeing those reviews all over the internet has made me even more curious to pick this book up. I want to know what I'm missing out on. I love From Blood and Ash, and I feel like I'm not really missing out on much. I mean, if we're excluding the War of Two Queens, yeah. But in terms of where A Fate of Wrath and Flame will take me, I have no clue. I'm very much looking forward to reading this. If I don't get to it this month, I eventually want to get to it this year because it's definitely a priority. I feel like if I don't, then I might be missing out on a new favorite. Option number 2 for fantasy romance options is a duology. So this one is a very quick and easy series for me to get into, unless of course it ends up pulling on my heartstrings and it gets to the point where I can't take it anymore because the angst is real. I don't actually know, but what I do know is that this series right here, Wraith Kings, is angsty, apparently. It's pretty spicy from what I've heard, but I've heard it's really good. The first book being Radiance, the second book being Eidolon, I believe, or Eidolon. I put off the series for a very long time because I heard that the series was extended and I didn't want to continue on with the series until the other series got published. But turns out the series has only really gotten extended in spin-offs. This is a complete duology following a couple. I held myself off for a very long time thinking that this wasn't a complete story, therefore I shouldn't jump into it. And that's what I tend to do a lot of the time. That's why I've been holding off from reading A Fate of Wrath and Flame, and I need to stop doing that because with the From Blood and Ash series, like, that's not even a complete series yet. I was willing to go through the pain with that series, whereas with some other series I see on my shelf, I'm not ready to go through the pain until it's completed, so I have to change that. However, in this situation, the series happens to be completed, so like, it's kind of a win-win in a way. I'm very much looking forward to reading these, and oh my goodness guys, I've already pre-ordered the Fake Rate editions. They were too beautiful to resist. I don't even know whether I like the series yet, but the Fake Crate editions look absolutely beautiful, and like these covers look okay. They don't compare to that Fake Crate cover though. Oh my goodness. The second last fantasy romance that I do want to read in the month of June if I can get to it. I mean, these are just options, guys. Just remember that. But I need to find a new favorite and I need it pronto. Unlike the other two that I mentioned, this one's probably the most intimidating because this is a 6-book series with some spin-offs. The first book in the 6-book series is Rubble's Blade by Frost K. This is the first book in the Armenian Feuds series. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm very much looking forward to reading this series because I hear great things about Frost K, and I do have Court of Dragons by Frost K from the bookish box. However, I wanted to try one of their backlist series first before reading their newer series. So I reckon that the Armenian Feud series is probably going to be the one for me. This series is a very long series, and like I do love myself some long series. I do have commitment issues sometimes when it comes to series, but it really depends on the headspace. Like I want to be in the right headspace to read a very long series, and so I think that's why I'm struggling to start it. Usually I have commitment issues in terms of the prior feelings of going into a series. However, oh boy, I am so looking forward to once I'm in it because I hear great things about the series. And I believe that unlike the last two series that I mentioned, this one is young adult. I could be wrong. Maybe there's some new adult themes. But what I do know is that it is upper YA. So cannot wait for it. I'll let you guys know how I go with it if I do get to it. And the last book that I have on this TBR that I'm very much looking forward to getting to is a book that I put on a TBR sometime last year and I never got to it. And I figured that maybe getting into this book series this year will be an excellent decision because I believe that the final book in the series, I actually don't know whether this is going to be a trilogy or a duology. However, the next book in the series comes out later this year, and like I've got some other series that I'm going to be finishing off this year as well. So I may as well start a new one and hopefully add a new favorite to the bunch. That, my friends, is The Witch Haven by Sasha Payton Smith. I received this book in a bookish box back in August, I want to say. Yeah, it was the August YA pick. I have the beautiful exclusive edition, the one with the pink pages and the one with the purple dust jacket. I absolutely love the packaging of this book. The problem is I have not prioritized reading it whatsoever. I do want to get to it and I heard great things about it, but I think the reason why I didn't prioritize getting to it is because I heard that when it was first published, it was published to be a standalone and there wasn't going to be a sequel. And then a bunch of people in the bookish box group were like, wait a second, isn't there going to be a sequel? That kind of scared me off because I usually love fully fleshed out plots. I usually love fully fleshed out stories. And then when I found out that The Witch Hunt, which is the sequel or the later announced sequel, when I heard that that sequel was announced and was coming out, that is what put motivation within me again to read The Witch Haven. You guys already know that when it comes to fantasy romance specifically, I prioritize series. So you know what? This has been bumped up to the top of my TBR and I cannot wait to read it and let you guys know how I go with it, and hopefully this might join my favorites list for this year. My favorites list is looking pretty empty, so let's fill it. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay till the end of the video, leave me the purple heart emoji, and the reason why I was inspired to put a purple heart here is because the Witch Haven cover, once again, it's purple. Also, my nails are purple as well. If you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers, and also I have social media. I'm at GSwizzleBooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/GSwizzle, and finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at GSwizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Thought it I would have fun, I flipped it in a double. Thought it I would have fun, I flipped it in a double.